Welcome to the Functional Coaches Corner. Well, welcome back. This is our third lesson, and I'm really excited to dive into this one specifically today because this is a very common concern question that coaches come to both John and I for. And I would say that this is one of the biggest reasons that other coaches join GHMC. And we're going to be talking all about gut health, which is really exciting. There's so much that has evolved over the last just 5 years about gut health, and it's everywhere. So, we're going to be going over a lot of great things when it comes to digestion, things that you can do right now as a coach to help your clients with what you've got available to you, and what more advanced protocols and testing that you can look at getting into down the road. And where I find a lot of people start to get a little bit, you know, "Ooh, I don't know how to handle this." But make sure that you stay all the way to the end because we're gonna be going over exactly 5 things that you can do as a coach right now to help your clients with their digestion. So let's dive into it. Gut health is everywhere. We talked on 2 lessons ago about how self enablement is so prevalent in your clients, your potential clients, trying to figure out what the heck is going on with them. And a lot of coaches are wanting to learn more about that. I actually find a lot of coaches struggle with their own gut health themselves. Don't you find that a lot of coaches really start their gut health journey and then they realize they wanna help other people with their gut health journey? I feel like it very much starts with us. Don't you
Yeah,
agree?
so often. I mean, I think like a lot of people in the country struggle with, or the world struggle with gut health. And like, why is this happening? Well, I mean, if you look at our food system, it's devoid of fiber. It's everything's processed. Everything goes for the cheapest possible way to get it here. So, I mean, you think about like that's our food system, and then you put that inside of your body. How
Mhm,
is our body going to actually process that?
mhm, mhm.
So, yeah, a lot of people, but a lot of coaches do struggle with something gut health related for sure. And what's the best way I think to get new clients is to do something yourself or be on your own journey and relate to that.
Yes. Well, that's how a lot of us get into the space anyways,
Yeah.
because we lose weight or we go after our goals, so we're like, "Hey, we can help other people with their goal." So, this is the same. I mean, I found and you have seen my evolution of going through my own gut health issues, my own hormone issues, and we really brought Evolve up to that level of coaching after that, and so that's helped our business, like, completely take off, and a
Yeah.
lot of our students within GHMC too, so it all starts with you. So if you are listening to this and you are a coach and you suffer from your own gut health issues, which a lot of in shape, really athletic people do, and
Yeah.
it shows
Or
up in
you may not know that you do even, right?
right.
You might not
Yes.
know what a good digestion is.
Right, I know I definitely lived in, like, that world of saying, "Oh, I guess this is just how I am, this is how I've always been," and, I my endoscopy was clear, we'll get into all of that, but it just, like, this topic just really lights me up, and I know that we're gonna get into some really good, valuable things for you today. So, let's talk about maybe what some common gut issues are and how they present themselves. What do you see as the most common gut issue out there? And we can go from there.
Yeah, so I mean, you have like common like actual gut issues, and then you also have like this whole layer of like, let's say common but not really gut issues that are gut issues. So we'll start with the real gut issues, right? That like somebody could be like, oh yeah, that's a gut issue. So you've got, let's start up in our up here in the top of our digestive tract. So you've got common issues of heartburn. So heartburn, and a lot of people don't know the difference between heartburn and reflux. So let me just give you the John Dobbs-Lecky definition. I think this is the real definition, but I'll just caveat with that. Heartburn feels like you have some like ooh, ow, stabbing pain.
Mhm.
Whereas reflux feels as though you're like either burping up food that's like a little bit acidic, or you have some burning in your throat that just feels like acid in your
Mhm.
throat. So those are my kind of two definitions. Heartburn is usually going to happen shortly after eating. Sometimes it happens when you lay down and start to like fall asleep or so. Maybe you ate a little bit too much. Reflux can really reflux is the sneaky one. It can actually happen like either shortly after eating, maybe you ate a little bit too much, when you lay down, go to bed, could wake up in the middle of the night with reflux, could wake up the next morning and just feel like really nauseous and like have this reflux, like acid in your throat, burning. And then it could just happen like randomly throughout whenever. Reflux I find is actually much, much more common than heartburn, but
Oh my
heartburn
gosh.
it definitely does exist. So that's starting up here. Now, as we go further down, possibly the most common, actually, not possibly, definitely the most common thing that I see that is a digestive issue is bloating.
Mhm.
Bloating could be, I mean, most people, I think, define bloating as like, I can't button my pants after
There's many
eating,
reasons why you can't do that.
end of the day, right? So, I'm kind of like, well, how long have you been? Sometimes I ask clients, how long have you been bloated? And they're like, well, like a year or two. Is this bloating or have you just gained some weight? Did it come out of nowhere or was it,
It's okay, like, we've got some body fat.
yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay too. Um, So you've got bloating. How would I define it? I would define it as like this gurgly pressure in your belly that can sometimes expand and cause protrusion. Generally happens end of the day after eating, something along those lines.
Mhm.
Um, sure, you could probably define bloat as like I wake up with a flat stomach in the morning and then it's like pushing against my pants, or I look like 6 months pregnant at the end of the day.
That's a
That's
big one that I hear,
that's
yeah, and
yeah,
lived it.
that's definitely, definitely bloating. And then also, like, throw on top, like, some gurgling, maybe some gas, like, stuff like that,
Right.
right? So, other digestive issues, gas, just as mentioned, gurgling, your digestion should make some noises, but it shouldn't be, like, painful or anything like that. Like, side pain, kind of where, like, your gallbladder and stuff like that is, that's a lot of times a sort of like gallbladder digestion issue. So that's very common. One of the more recent ones that I've been working through with somebody is back pain.
Mm.
So it's actually most likely something to do with like the descending colon. So it's like a deep referred pain in the back. And it has to do with like slow gut motility,
Mm.
constipation, things like that. What else? And then obviously we have like diarrhea and constipation. I can't tell you how many people that you wouldn't really think of, message or I'm going through the health history, message me and are like, I have had diarrhea every single morning for the last 15 years.
Ugh,
Soon as I wake up, it happens. I'm like, 15, like, you haven't gotten this checked out? Oh, I went to a GI doc. They said that it's just normal for some people. I was like, 15 years? You accepted that's normal? Then constipation, I think actually constipation we all accept as normal. And even I have had a doctor say to me that that's normal. Just take some Miralax. It's probably something you ate or whatever. But chronic diarrhea, chronic constipation, absolutely not normal.
right.
I think that's it.
I I was just talking to this new athlete we just brought on, and we were talking about her digestion. Luckily, she's having a bowel movement every day. She's been eating very little. 1,000 calories was put on a 6 meal a day meal plan by a bodybuilding coach, and has struggled for a while. And she has no bloating. Everything is fine, but she does break out in rashes. Her doctor said just take some more Claritin. She takes Claritin every day of her life.
Yeah.
So, skin issues
Yep.
can definitely be a cause of poor gut health.
Yeah. So now let's get into the what are issues we don't think are gut health, but
Yes.
actually are gut health. So the first one is like where I think most of my clients will even come in, and probably coaches who are listening to this, they probably have a number of clients who are facing some of those first ones, and they probably share it with them. Some of these are like not so like the skin issues. That's not like really thought of as like a gut health issue. Actually, I have a very good example. Somebody just jumped whenever I talk skin issues with somebody jumps into mind. Terrible psoriasis, like out of nowhere psoriasis, all, all plaque psoriasis all over his body. And it's just like, I think he was in the military and this just like came out of nowhere. And been to all kinds of doctors and specialists and things like that. And he was like, I kind of heard maybe there was like a gut issue or whatever. And I said, I would be willing, before we tested, I would be willing to bet that we have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, and we have like an H. pylori infection or a parasite or something like that. Yeah, guess what it was? We
Yeah.
got his GI map back. It was a H. pylori, pretty bad H. pylori infection, and then leaky gut. So you've got some of these like invaders and bad bacteria and like actual infections that are happening in your digestive tract that leaky gut then allows them to leak into the bloodstream, and they manifest themselves in different aspects. It could be inflammation for somebody, it could be psoriasis for somebody, it could be chapped lips for somebody else, it could be poor skin, it could be eczema, right? So
That's
it could be brain fog, it could be
yeah.
inflammation. I get go on and on and on. So anyway, so skin issues are big, inflammation's big, bloating is big, weight loss resistance is big, brain fog, hair
Yeast
loss,
infections.
yeast infections, actually not even just yeast infections, other fungal infections. So like I have a client 3 or 4 weeks ago was mentioned she got prescribed antibiotics for a just a skin fungal infection, kind of like I think it was like underarm or something like that. Uh, got issue. I had somebody else who has a little bit of like a fungal infection, like kind of like around her mouth and nose and stuff like that. Antibiotics prescribed. I said, let's give the oregano oil in your gut plan a go for that. And then after, you can always go to antibiotics and kind of do that for right. Fatigue. I think chronic fatigue syndrome actually, that's actually a diagnosis a lot of times, and somebody can be, I think, categorized as disabled for that. I think that there is a vitamin and nutrient component, and there's a big gut component to it, leaky gut.
Also, just and we've talked about this before, but hair,
Hair.
hair, nails not gaining or keeping muscle mass, and you're training hard, eating enough protein.
Good one.
Yeah.
Hormone
Going
issues.
hormone issues. I mean, really, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg with that one.
Yeah.
That's another lesson that we're gonna get into. Going back to what also manifests, like, inside the gut where you're like, "Oh, this is an issue," just, like, really bad stomach pain after eating specific foods or high-fat foods, that's a big one that I know a lot of healthy individuals struggle with. So, we've named all of these. I actually wanna go back real quick. You mentioned H. pylori. Can you define that?
H. pylori is a bacteria that lives in the lining of the stomach, and it is in about 70% of the US population, world population, let's say. And it is transmitted through contact with other people. Um, and, for a lot of those people that it lives in, it's not harmful. However, if it becomes a particular strain that is virulent or AKA bad, a bad strain, or if it gets overgrown, what it can do is it can become like an infection. And so they used to think that like coffee and alcohol and acidic foods caused ulcers, but a lot of the reason why ulcers happen is because H. pylori embeds and starts getting virulent and gnaws through, the wall of your stomach and creates an ulcer. Also, H. pylori very common in stomach cancer. So if this starts to get overgrown, it's not a good time and it can cause inflammation. And then the other interesting thing H. pylori does is it steals your stomach acid. So
What do you
it
mean
will
by
go so it will essentially neutralize stomach acid and use it for itself and cause your stomach acid to be less effective. And so you could have symptoms of like reflux. A lot of times, reflux is a sign of low stomach acid. So the H. pylori might be overgrown, stealing your stomach acid, causing you to have low stomach acid, causing reflux, which is a symptom of H. pylori. And then you're not going to digest your protein properly. You're going to have downstream consequences, bloating, constipation, can't gain muscle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
cool. So, not a good time.
No, but they're actually finding that some little tiny level of H. pylori might be normal, and it might actually be beneficial.
We were just talking about that the other day. It's so interesting, saying that because really there's so much research to still even be done on gut health. And you have some people in the camp of like, I don't believe in the gut microbiome and, GI maps are not correct and all of the I just like literally did 2 different accents there. But you have that camp of people who really say, "Hey, we don't know enough about this. Do the basics and you'll be fine." But then you have the other camp of people who are looking for every single thing that it could
Yeah.
be giving people parasite cleanses and they might not need. So you have very 2 extreme sides of the gut health. I don't even wanna say trend, like, just the gut health era right now. So we're
Yeah.
gonna help you be in the middle of that because, 1, we're not gonna be just going looking for problems that aren't there, but also 2, like, there is a lot of evidence to support, like, what GI maps look for, the way that we talk about, like, these different protocols, like, really do have a lot of merit and also just our anecdotal experience by you and me both just reading several hundred GI maps and going through this with people. So there's 2 different camps. Now, let's talk about some basic gut health principles that every coach needs to know and understand, starting with the right questions to ask potentially on their sales call, their intake form, their check-ins. We can talk about that, but then also just I guess tools in the tool belt that coaches should have when it comes to helping their clients with their digestion.
Yeah, I think the first thing is as a coach, you should have a good understanding of the overall digestive process. So, digestion starts in the mouth with mastication, aka chewing, and you actually have some enzymes in your mouth, like salivary amylase, that start to break down food. So, amylase will break down carbohydrates. So, it's kind of like as a kid, did you ever do the saltine test, where
As a kid, if you mean, like, when I was 18, yes.
how many whole saltines can
Yeah,
you
like
eat
like 5 years ago.
at once without, like, with no water or whatever? So, you put one saltine in your mouth and you start chewing, and it's like, all right, it's gone. It's a mush. It's effectively like totally dissolved. Well, that's actually amylase working on that to
Mm,
digest it,
okay.
and so it starts to digest in your mouth. And so also why, like, if you eat a candy, like the candy like disintegrates in your mouth. It's not just saliva; it's like the amylase that's actually breaking it down. So that can actually start to digest some of these simple carbohydrates right away in your mouth. So that's where it starts. Also chewing. So like chewing is really important, not just to break down like carbohydrates, but more so to break down like fats and protein. Because that mechanistic, mechanical action is going to start to get these things into smaller pieces. Then it goes down your esophagus into your stomach. Stomach is where acid is released by the parietal cells, so stomach acid starts to denature protein. That essentially just starts to unfold it. So protein's all folded up like this. You chew it and it kind of is like this. And then it starts to denature it. So it unfolds like that. And then then it goes on and starts to get digested. You have fat digestion enzymes that are secreted by the pancreas. Stomach acid will activate these. So if like you have low stomach acid, we might not be activating our fat digestive enzymes properly. So once all this stuff starts to mash together, your stomach and like your large intestine and the duodenum and stuff like that do kind of have like motions to start to like, they start to move around and stuff like that to contract and expand to mix all this stuff together. And I believe it's called chime, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so chyme kind of moves down into your intestines and then it goes into your small intestine. Most of your stuff is absorbed. A lot of the fats absorbed, a lot of vitamins, nutrients, things like that. Then it goes into the large intestine and other things are absorbed. Fiber is not absorbed. Water is kind of reabsorbed, things like that, and it moves through there and then comes out the other end in the toilet. And that's kind of like your digestive process. So that's a normal functioning digestive process. What I do say is like there should be no heartburn, no indigestion, no reflux, things like that. Shouldn't feel overly full after eating, like unless you shove everything down there really fast, like you shouldn't feel overly full. A lot of people will feel full after eating a couple bites of food. Shouldn't feel bloated, like no bloat. maybe like a little bit like here or there if you know you had a massively if I had like an entire pizza in a
Mm,
contest, I would, probably gonna be bloated, but, like, if it's just normal life, no bloating, no constipation, no side pain, no belly pain, anything like that, shouldn't be any diarrhea, no constipation. I do like to pull up, like, a Bristol stool chart, 3, 4, somewhere in there is gonna be ideal. And then I ask my clients to point to what their poop looks like.
mhm,
Ask about color, things like that too. So that can all give you clues. Then I say, "How does it differ from that?" 50% of people say it differs from that. And then
mm.
I'll start asking questions, "How? How?" So that's how I like to kind of, like, frame it.
I think that's great, and just as it's important for those personal trainers, all of us who are prescribing exercise programs, it's important for us to know anatomy and physiology. Just like if we are going to dive a little bit deeper into our client's health, we should know how digestion works. And that was a really great anatomy and physiology lesson. So thank you for that. Going back to feeling full after meals, I know that is a really, really common side effect, and I don't think we touched on that at the beginning. What might feeling super full, not just like after eating a large pizza, because like we all feel that way, but at or some people don't, which is crazy. If we're full after a few bites, what might that indicate?
Yeah, so when I say, like, full after a few bites, so, like, let's say we're sitting down to, like, piece of salmon with a bunch of broccoli and some sweet potatoes,
Mhm.
and you take, like, 3 bites of salmon, a bite of sweet potatoes, and you just kinda feel
Mm,
like, "I'm a little bit full," like, kind of feeling. That could indicate low fat digestion enzymes, that could indicate low stomach acid. Things like that are super common. You could also if you, like, drank a whole bunch of water before, which I would not suggest, like, that can cause this too. But generally, it's gonna be a sign of, like, a low digestive enzyme or stomach acid. I do see that too with, like, SIBO sometimes, small intestinal bacterial.
okay. Yeah. That is a big SIBO is something that floats around a ton on social media. I think
Yeah,
everybody who talks about gut health is all like, "SIBO, SIBO, SIBO," which
probably the
is
only thing they know.
well, yeah, I wasn't gonna say that, but I mean, you said it, so what is SIBO, John? Why don't you define it for us?
Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It's essentially where you have too much bacteria in your small intestine, exactly as it sounds. But it's like types of bacteria and amount of bacteria that shouldn't be in the small intestine. And like small intestine plays such a key role in absorption and it's so close to the stomach, this can actually cause like a lot of issues.
Mhm,
So, whereas like you may have certain strains of like other bacteria that are overgrown in your large intestine, like commensal strains or something like that, could be overgrown in the large intestine. And that's going to be more like kind of like belly symptoms, like, belly bloating, like, diarrhea, constipation, things like that. SIBO can start to like cause symptoms back up here too.
okay. Going into and this is gonna be a good segue into testing in general, how do you test for SIBO?
So the official way, and everybody's
Official way.
expecting me to say GI map, but I'm not going to say GI map
Mm,
actually, is a lactulose breath test. If we want to talk about like actually conventionally accepted ways to test, SIBO breath test is one. You essentially drink a solution and then you breathe into like a bag and it captures and measures how much like of this gas you're producing. And so you breathe into that bag, it gets sealed up, you send it to a lab, they measure how much it is, how much of, how much methane or whatever, and then you get the results. And it'll measure it based on the gas, and it'll tell you, like, your SIBO is bad, your SIBO is not bad, or whatever, and then you do really need somebody who kinda knows what they're doing to read that, and then obviously develop a protocol and stuff like that. So, you breathe into this bag, you get it tested, you get the results, then you gotta do your protocol. Um, on a GI map, usually if we do see your commensal bacteria, which is kinda like your most important bacteria that they measure, If that's overgrown, as well as if we do see a couple different characteristics with certain bad bacteria, for lack of a better term, or like pathogenic bacteria, then we can kind of say, and then we take that plus symptoms. So,
Mhm.
like SIBO is going to be like a 6 month pregnant type belly.
Right.
It's going to be probably like a low appetite type person in the morning, could be like overly full, things like that. You start to have three or four things, and you're like, this is probably SIBO.
Right.
And regardless, you have this overgrowth, you know, so we can use some antimicrobials to beat it.
Got it. Okay. Now, I'm a coach listening to this, kind of like, oh shit, like there's a lot that is going on gut health wise. One, I want you guys to take away like you absolutely should be asking your clients how their digestion is every single week on your check in, either your calls or your form, however you're doing it. Make sure that they understand the Bristol stool chart, what their stool is. A lot of clients will think it's just, again, things are normal, like bloating and or diarrhea or constipation. And that's really when, you want to educate them. So we definitely want to be asking those biofeedback questions. Even something as simple as like trying to put somebody into a caloric deficit and they're not going to the bathroom every single day. Well, you bringing food down is only going to exacerbate that. I've had so many times where, you know, we have great digestion. So we go into a calorie deficit, their digestion just like stalls for whatever reason. We have to pull them back out. We have to adjust some things, fiber, water, etc., macros, and then, okay, finally we got them moving. Now we can bring them back down. Whereas me 4 years ago, who didn't have any clue about this, would have just kept pushing a deficit and saying, well, like you're in a calorie deficit, you should be losing body fat. So it's just being able to make those connections and think on a higher level, even if you have just clients who are there for body recomp and fat loss, you're going to have these issues come up. The more that you normalize gut health
Mhm.
importance, the more that your clients are actually going to open up to you about it. And so you might find things out about your clients that they didn't tell you when they first came up. Then you open up a whole new avenue of how you can help this person, which is truly life changing. So I'm a coach and I have somebody who is really struggling with their gut health. We're doing all the things, all the basic things right, but still something is off. What can we do about it?
First thing I would say is make sure like fiber and water
Mhm.
and step slash movement are optimized. Because, somebody's like, I got constipation. It's like, let's do a GI map. Let's jump into this. And realistically, if I look at their fiber, like, yeah, I get plenty of fiber. And, and they're like, I have oats for breakfast. And then lunch is chicken and like some, salad. And then like dinner is a steak and, potatoes. Do you realize how hard it is to get like 25, 35 grams of fiber
Consistent every day.
consistently? And especially throwing like a calorie deficit or somebody that's eating, maybe they're not like, quote, in a calorie deficit, but like
Mhm.
if they're a new client and they're eating 1,800, 2,200 calories, like something like that, what I just outlined, unless you're putting in chia seeds, blueberry, nut butter into that oatmeal, and then like the salad you're having is like leafy greens with like some chickpeas and like a fiber bomb. Like that a day on an average American is probably 12 grams of
Right.
fiber, but a half to a third of what we need.
Enough.
So I really do want to double click into that with the clients first. A lot of the coaches, like you guys do a great job with that. So check water. Everybody has their clients like half of your body weight in ounces. Then movement. So I think a lot of people kind of underestimate this one. Like if somebody's getting 3,000 steps a day, could be the problem. Like
Sure.
you need gravity and the new vibration plate craze. I've been asked 6 times today whether my client this said client should get a vibration plate. I'm like, there must have been some sort of big
Yeah.
takeover last night of this. But the vibration plate actually like shakes things down and like helps move things along.
I mean, like, if I'm constipated, I'm getting on a vibration plate, like, I feel like that's gonna be effective.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely has been shown to help. I mean,
You know what also helps? A squatty potty.
yeah, that too.
I mean, honestly, my friends have
Yeah.
that at their house, and I go every time.
Oh, you don't have one at home?
I do not, know.
at Aldi, 9.99.
I
Just
gotta
I
get one.
every single one of our bathrooms is outfitted.
Oh, that's
You got
hilarious.
especially if you have those, like, those, like, tall toilets that they put in now, like the comfort height, right? Like, when we first moved in here, it was like the toilets we had were, like, from the '90s, and they're, like, a foot off the ground. They were great, but we changed them out, and you can't find anything that's not, like, comfort height. Um, so, anyway, you need a squatty potty. They're, like, $9 at Aldi.
Yeah,
Um,
we gotta invest.
so that could be number 2, right? That could be another thing that yeah, you look into as a coach. But anyway, side note, like, yeah, most cultures around the world squat to use the bathroom
Yeah,
because that's like the natural position for it. So anyway, so I think the fiber, the water, the squatty potty, that's all important. Movement, stuff like that.
mhm,
Next step, I would say, is you can perform some of these like quick and dirty at home tests. You can do a transit time test. So that would be having something like that you know is going to like survive digestion. So popcorn kernels do it, corn generally does it, things like that. And you count how long it takes for it to go through. You eat it and then start the clock. How many hours does that take? Should be about 24 hours.
it's 24. If we are seeing it earlier, potential absorption, just
Yeah,
we've
going
got
quickly.
things are happening, motility's too quick.
So if it takes longer, then slow gut motility. I
Mhm.
mean, that could mean festering and fermenting things. It could mean constipation. It could mean poor hormone health. It could mean, lots of different things.
Okay, so we have the transit time test. Any other quick at home tests?
Baking soda test, half of a teaspoon of baking soda. Mix that in a little bit of water, 2, 3 inches of water in a cup, and then drink that first thing in the morning. We're counting how long it takes to burp. And we
That you're
don't want like a little like, we want like a real burp. It should be pretty quick, 10, 20 seconds or so. Uh, obviously, like we'll see things online that say it should be within like 2, 3 minutes. Maybe that's that person's opinion, but like in clinical practice, if I don't see it in 10 to 20 seconds, 99% of the time, the person has low stomach acid that it gets confirmed by
by GI
the
map.
GI.
Yeah, every time. Yeah.
It's so many times I've seen somebody, be like, "I burped at, like, a minute." They have low stomach acid. So, like, I just go off 10, 20 seconds. Should be pretty quick. And I do see good stomach acid status in some people.
Yeah, definitely. I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we have those 2 tests, and what those tests do too, it really makes your clients feel like, "Holy shit, they're actually really taking care of me. They're really going above and beyond here." I will have coaches come to me and I see the screenshots that their clients send of just like, "I really don't know how much you know about this." I remember when I was getting those and I just never wanna feel that way. Yeah, I never wanna feel like I can't help somebody. I want my clients to feel really confident in me. So and even if I can't help them, they're gonna know that I know who can help
Yeah.
them.
And I think actually a good power move in this space is that, it shouldn't be for, like, some of this basic stuff, but, like, a good power move is I don't have an opinion on that, or I haven't formed an opinion on that, but I do know what you're talking about. And so let me get back to you once I form an opinion. Now, when somebody's like, I am burping, and I have reflux, like, what do you think it is? Again, like if you're like, I don't know, they're gonna be like, all right, well, I guess this person doesn't know anything about digestion. But if somebody's like, what do you think about this new
Vibration
peptide
boost.
that's out there or yeah, whatever. And you're like, I know what you're talking about. Like, I personally haven't used it or tried it or whatever. I don't have enough, facts to form an opinion about that yet, but I'll get back to you once I do.
Yeah, that's so much better. That's a really great aside. That's a really great aside. Now let's talk about the queen, GI map.
I always, whenever anybody says Queen, I'm like kind of like a little AV geek, like an airplane geek. I think of the Queen of the Skies, the 747.
I do not think
Some
that.
people get what I'm saying.
I do not have an opinion on that.
747 is like the double decker airplane, like, you know. I'm talking about two levels and
Have you ever been in one?
massive. Yeah, well, when I used to live in Asia, I used to fly back and forth on it every time I went back and forth.
Nice.
Anyway,
No, I do
Queen of the Skies.
okay. Well, I'm talking about the Queen GI map.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a coach, and I don't know what a GI map is. High level overview, quick and dirty. What's a GI map?
It assesses your entire digestive tract holistically. So it starts up here and it looks at like your digestive enzyme status and things like that. It looks for H. pylori, which we talked about earlier. It looks for, then it moves down. It looks for your gut microbiome. So it looks at the levels of good bacteria, bad bacteria. It looks at, the digestive tract lining. So like there's different layers to that. Do you have a good immune system in your digestive tract? Do you have any gluten sensitivity in your digestive tract? Do you have histamine reactions? Do you have appropriate levels of detoxification of hormones happening? And then it also looks for like parasites, protozoa, worms, yeast infections, like things like that. So it's a complete like digestive overview, and it has a good emphasis on like your gut microbiome and balance your gut microbiome. What do your good bacteria look like? What do your bad bacteria look like?
Yeah. It is an at-home test where you send the test gets sent to your house and you poop in what looks like a cardboard french fry tray. I had one of my athletes, she sent me that on her hand and she goes, "How am I supposed to poop in this?" And I was like, "You'll be all right. You'll figure it out. We all do." And so you play scientist and you take some samples and you shake it, you send it, FedEx it back to the lab. We get the results in about 7 to 10 days, and then we could see everything that you're talking about there. So it's pretty neat. It's not something that you have to go into a doctor's office for. When athletes want to do a GI map or clients or coaches want to do a GI map, they've been to GI docs. Like we've had clients go get endoscopies, they'll go get different clinical tests, colonoscopies, everything comes back clear and they're still struggling. And so when you're somebody who in your practice, in your coaching practice has access to a GI map, people are going to become very interested in that and feel like really, really excited to work with you.
Especially like through word of mouth and things like that. That's how I find most of my clients in my for my practice is word of mouth of like somebody was basically this like, digestive sentence for the rest of their life and then we fixed it. And then they can talk, they talk to other people and things
Mhm.
like that. And what I would say is what's interesting about the GI map is like some now if you're talking to like conventional doctor or something like that, many time or a conventional researcher, many times they will say like, oh, it's not like a um standard test, like a standard conventional test. But what is interesting is there are a couple markers on the GI map that are done in GI labs and GI doctors' offices. For example, elastase, pancreatic elastase is a common marker. You will have to do a stool test a lot of times for these. They can do blood tests, but they're not terribly reliable. But I've had clients do a pancreatic elastase, which is one stool test. H. pylori tests, they do those in the doctor's office. Sometimes the GI map disagrees with it, and that's for a good reason because the GI map is generally a lot more sensitive.
Mhm.
But also calprotectin is an inflammatory marker. Again, these are usually done stool tests in a GI doctor's office. And what's so interesting is I've had more than a couple clients come in with elastase levels and calprotectin levels, inflammation and fat digestion, that exactly, this is from the lab, from their GI doctor, exactly matched what came back
Wow.
on the GI map to the exact number. So that gives me good confidence in the test, not to mention all the results we've got with people. And I'm like I am super skeptical about everything as a first reaction. Every supplement, every test, like I come in with a healthy skepticism. And so like if I'm standing behind something, I've seen good results.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And if a coach wants to get a GI map done for either themselves or their client, where do you typically send them? How does that work? How can we take the next steps?
Yeah, if coach wants to do it themselves, like reach out to Kayla or I. We walk you through kind of like the steps and things like that for sure through GHMC and our cohorts. Not necessarily if you do like a course only option, but in our full fledged cohorts, our perspective is that you learn best when you practice on yourself or a client. So we do provide a GI map or a Dutch test for you to use. So if that's of interest, these things are depending on who does them, 500 bucks, 800 bucks, whatever. So that's great value there. Typically, like we do like to have an initial consult meeting type thing with you, understand what's going on. I've had people come to me and like we do the consult. They thought they were going to get a GI map, and we actually like went through and we're like, you don't need a GI map. You just need to do these things. Got great results. So we don't always have to jump right into this test.
Right. Great.
Yeah, and we get it all set up for you. Protocols, we'll probably do an episode on protocols, but protocols are generally like some nutrition changes, some dietary things, and then it's, some supplements depending on what we needs to be killed off or supported, some digestive enzymes, some leaky gut powders, like things like.
Yeah, very cool. And you mentioned, GHMC, which we are doing another cohort, April 6th, which we're really excited about. So just as you're listening to this, it's going to be February or like almost February. So definitely keep that in the back of your mind. And as we are headed into the season of getting into that cohort, we're going to be doing so many fun master classes, webinars, provide you with so many free coaching tools that you can instantly use with your clients. So be on the lookout for that. To wrap this lesson up, I do want to just make sure that we cover those 5 things that a coach can do right now. You mentioned a couple of them earlier. So fiber, what is like the recommended fiber?
25 to 35 grams. Some people will say like for every 1,000 calories or every 1,500 calories, you want to have, you know, 15 grams of fiber or so, gram for every 100 calories or so. That's not a bad recommendation, but I would say 25 grams for women, 35 for men. And then you can go up from there. Like if you do need motility support and stuff like that, up from there, don't jump in too fast. Usually that's where people feel super uncomfortable
Yeah.
is when they go from 12 grams to 30 grams.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So fiber. And are we going to we can talk about hydration
Yep. Water, half your body weight in ounces as the minimum.
minimum. I find even more.
Yeah.
I find even more. I mean, we work with a lot of people who are sweating. We work with a lot of like super active people. Really, if I have a female who's, 100 pounds, I'm having her drink way more than 50 ounces of water, usually.
Yeah.
So I would say, half your body weight in ounces is the minimum. You can always continue to increase from there to see how digestion improves. The example that I gave earlier, that's what we did. We ramped her up and she's like, I'm healed. Let's lose body fat. And she did, which was great. So water and then movement. What are your so what are your recommendations for movement just outside of exercise activity?
Yeah, I would say like, low impact things that do utilize gravity to help things move along. Like if we're talking pure digestion, I like steps, I like running. Those
Yeah,
two.
running. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jogging, running, like everybody here's running and you're like, oh my God, I can't do that.
Well,
It's
not
like
anymore. It's a
jog.
trend. It's the trend is back. Everybody
Oh, yes.
who used to say, "Oh, running is so bad,
Bad for
don't
you.
do it." Now they're
Yeah.
running
They're
marathons.
running. Got it. Got
So
it.
the trend is back,
Got it.
even though it's never a trend, it's just good cardiovascular training, but, whatever.
Cardio's back. It's not
Cardio
bad
is
for you
back.
anymore.
Cardio is cool again. Make cardio cool again. Okay, so 2 more things that we can do as a coach that today, if you're listening to this, what you can start implementing today.
Oh, apple cider vinegar before meals.
Yes. I have a story about that, but yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, tablespoon apple cider vinegar before meals. I would highly recommend diluting it in water. So once again, just like a little bit of water for the apple cider vinegar and knock it back. Everybody complains to me and says, "Oh my God, like
Oh, I
it's the
think
worst thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. I hate you." But what it does is it stimulates gastric juices and it starts to tell your digestive tract, let's get ready, and creates a little like mild acidity in your stomach, helps with digesting protein and things like that. Reason why we dilute it with water is because if you're just shooting it straight, it's going to wear away that teeth enamel.
I used to
So,
shoot it straight. I used
yeah.
to
And
I used
everybody,
to think apple cider vinegar was gonna help me lose body fat in a bikini competition back in, like, 2013. So, like, every morning as part of my supplements, I would
yeah.
just
I mean, I definitely went through that,
right. I mean,
definitely was influenced by somebody. I can't say I've seen much science on that, but
there's yeah, no, no,
yeah.
we're past that. But so, if we're doing the baking soda test that we described earlier, your client doesn't burp past, 30 seconds and up, 10 seconds and up. I mean, doing a month of apple cider vinegar before your big meals and then retesting the baking soda test is a great place to start. We actually had a athlete, real story. She did not burp at all. She likely needs a GI map. It's coming. But anyways, she didn't burp at all. One of our coaches started ACV before each meal. In 2 weeks, her bloating and distension has significantly decreased.
Very
Crazy.
good. Yeah.
Crazy. Yes. So I love that. I love that advice. I think that's great. So we've got fiber, water, movement, apple cider vinegar slash stomach acid slash baking soda test.
I would say, I think what a lot of people that we work with they're always on the go and stressed out.
Mhm. Okay.
So, like, stress really does kind of like not just like chronic stress and stuff like that, but like acute stress really does counteract your stomach acid, it counteracts your digestive tract. So think about it this way, right? Like what is cortisol there for? Cortisol, increases heart rate, it like dumps sugar into your bloodstream, shuts down digestion because it's prioritizing running away from a tiger.
Right. Blood flow to your extremities.
Yeah, when I get up in the morning and I walk outside and a tiger starts chasing me, I need my cortisol to start running away, right? But when we're eating, if you are in that high cortisol state, like stressed out state, your digestive tract shut down. So anything that like comes into your body isn't going to get digested properly. And what we really want to do is be in like a rest and digest state. Now, I know this isn't like absolutely easy for everybody, but let's just get away from the, and I'm guilty of this sometimes, like get away from the like shoving like slices of turkey down your throat as you're running out the door screaming at your kid to get in the car and, stop picking their nose.
Oh my
We
gosh.
can actually like drop the kid off at school, sit in our car, take a
Mhm.
deep breath, and then start shoving turkey down.
I'm so glad that you brought this up. If we would have ended this lesson and not talked about this, I would have been very upset because I actually love this point and I can't believe I've waited for 56 minutes to talk about it. So, when you watch a Marvel movie, for example, and you're like, when do these people eat? Like, I think about that stuff all the time. People are like
Yeah.
eating, they're not going to the bathroom, they're just like fighting, they're just there. And I'm just thinking, "Oh my gosh, like, I would never survive because like, I have too many conditions that I need." But, like, when you're in it, like, you're in it. So, at the end and I forget which Avengers it was, but, how Marvel always has their scenes after the credits. They were all eating shawarma in a restaurant, and they were just, like, finally, like, breathing, eating, and they were all just, like, stuffing their face, and nobody said anything, and I love that scene because that's exactly what this is. They are always in fight or flight, so they are not hungry. They finally get into a rest and digest state, and then they want food. Their body actually says, "Hey, I can digest this now." Have you ever eaten and then maybe, like, gotten in an argument with somebody or just, like, something happened, and when you were eating and that happened, you, like, got a stomach ache? That happens
Yeah.
to me a lot. Like, if something is happening, if I'm eating and I open up a really, like, not a great email or message, I'm not hungry and I gotta deal with this. We really do struggle to digest our food when we are not in that parasympathetic rest and digest state. So I do like to give the protocol of just 5 to 10 deep breaths before your meal every day. Like 5 to 10 deep breaths before your meal. And I explain the importance of it just how I did right there. Nobody doesn't get benefit from this. I don't know
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't get a benefit from it. Every time after I meditate and I do breath work for a good amount of time, I'm ravenous after. I'm so hungry. I'm starving. My friends who host breathwork retreats, after they do an hour long session of breathwork, they have this huge bowl of fruit that everybody just like, goes after because your body just really accepts food and digestion at that point. So, vagal nerve stimulation. The vagal nerve is really key in digestion and plays a huge role in stress. So, if we can stimulate that by breathing and connecting like our breath and our body before we eat, we're going to be in a much better spot. So that's a really big thing that you can use with your clients.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I think this was really great. I think that, if I were a coach listening to this, I would feel, okay, cool. I can actually tackle some of these things. We go into this way more in depth within GHMC. So you're like, how much more in depth can we go? Oh, a lot more in depth because then
Oh
at
yeah.
that point we're looking at GI maps, we're looking at more complicated cases. Like we didn't even go into a lot of advanced gut issues that we still have yet to scratch the surface on. So if you love this stuff, if you love gut health, if you're really interested in it, like you are definitely in the right spot. So welcome to the Functional Coaches Corner. We're gonna have more lessons, we're gonna have case studies, we're gonna have all the good stuff for you guys on gut health. So, with that said, John, anything else? Did we cover
Nope.
everything?
I think we got it. We'll see you guys
Cool.
in the next one.
All right, see you guys. Bye.